The moment she walked into the barbecue, they started laughing. They called her the broke single mom, shoved her toward the kids' table, and even poured soda on her jeans right in front of her daughter. Her old friends mocked her, saying her husband was probably stuck washing dishes in some tiny rental. Then, like she was the night's entertainment, they pushed her into the kiddie pool. What they didn't know, the woman they just humiliated was about to become the owner of the entire block. They were still laughing until the black SUVs pulled up. And then her husband, Commander Marcus Whitaker, stepped out. The silence that followed hit harder than a missile. That backyard barbecue in Westfield, Illinois, supposed to be a picture of suburban charm, turned out to be a display of snobbery at its finest. Perfect lawns, twinkling string lights, and former college friends now pretending they were royalty. The air was thick with the clinks of boutique beer bottles, gourmet burger smoke, and smug, polished laughter. Elena Hartley arrived quietly. Her little girl followed close behind. Elena wore an old t-shirt and faded jeans. Her hair was tied back in a simple bun, and her face gave away nothing, not ambition, not anger, just calm. She brought a small fruit tray. It was her way of holding on to what used to be. But the crowd looked at her like scavengers spotting something weak. That manicured backyard, with its Pinterest-perfect setup and top-tier grill, was really just a playground for the rich, where power was shown off through designer clothes and big mortgages. By the fire pit stood Sabrina Knox, the self-declared queen of the neighborhood, her diamond earrings sparkling against her expensive sundress. Travis Reed, her boyfriend and the local alpha wannabe, swaggered nearby, his tight polo trying too hard to show off his gym hours. The rest of the guests, real estate sharks, finance guys, influencer moms, scanned Elena with sneers, their whispers cutting like razors. Elena's eyes moved over the scene like a chess player, calm and calculating, but no one noticed. To them, she didn't even register. They saw her as nothing more than a ghost from their past, stumbling into their polished little world. And they were ready to crush her before she even set down her tray. When Elena placed the fruit tray on a nearby picnic table, a circle of influencer moms and designer athleisure closed in, their laughter laced with poison. One petite woman with a designer headband stepped forward and sneered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Oh, Elena, did you pick that tray up from some dollar store picnic?" she said, flicking a strawberry onto the grass. "That t-shirt's crying for a mercy drop-off, and those jeans? They're a crime against Westfield fashion. This isn't some budget cookout for single moms with late rent. You're throwing off our whole vibe just standing here. Why don't you and your kid head back to whatever sad little apartment you crawled out of before you ruin our content?" The others laughed and tossed cocktail sticks at her feet, every word and gesture a slap. Elena adjusted her tray carefully. Her face was unreadable, her hands steady, but the cruelty hit like a wave. The entire crowd seemed to cheer on the spectacle, as if her very presence insulted their curated lives. The bullying had started the second she stepped onto the lawn, her daughter's tiny hand in hers. Sabrina, lounging like royalty in a wicker chair, scanned Elena from head to toe and delivered her insult with a syrupy sneer. "Still holding on to that vintage charm, Elena? That t-shirt looks like it survived 10 garage sales, and those jeans? Honey, they've given up," she cooed, tapping her wine glass. "This is Westfield. We've moved on. Did you take a wrong turn at the thrift store? Honestly, it's almost cute that you thought you could still hang with us. You should have stuck to your mommy groups. This BBQ's for people who actually made it." More laughter erupted. Beer bottles clinked together like trophies of their mockery. Sabrina's smile sharpened. "Dragging your kid around like it's daycare. Go back to your little rental. This lawn's for winners, not washed-up memories." Elena stood firm, tray in hand, her expression frozen in stone. Her silence didn't make them pause, it made them bolder. It was as if her refusal to break made them angrier. Then Travis Reed stepped up, beer in hand, voice booming across the yard like he was hosting a show. "Take a good look, fellas. Elena, the official single mom buzzkill," he shouted, pointing with a smirk. "Red flag if I've ever seen one. Would you look at her?" Someone jeered. "Rocking that thrift store look like it's a lifestyle choice." The crowd snorted. "Those jeans are so faded they're practically screaming for mercy, and that t-shirt? I've used better rags to clean my tires." "This is a Westfield barbecue, sweetheart," another added. "We're here to grill prime cuts, not serve up broken dreams." Just by standing there, holding her daughter's hand, Elena was apparently ruining the party's vibe. One guy laughed so hard he nearly dropped his beer. "You look like you just crawled out of a motel where the sheets don't match," he said. "Why don't you scurry back to that dump you call home and let the grown-ups enjoy themselves?" Their laughter exploded across the yard, beer bottles clinking in cruel approval. A few even tossed bottle caps at her feet like she was some sideshow. Later, during a round of cornhole, Elena was watching her daughter play nearby when a group of real estate brokers in matching polos closed in. Their chuckles sliced through the party noise like knives. One balding man with a flashy gold watch leaned toward her, his voice loud enough to grab attention. "Look at this, folks. Single mom thinks she can hang with Westfield's elite while dressed like she rolled out of a dumpster," he shouted, tossing a beanbag that landed just short of her feet. "That t-shirt? It's practically threadbare. And those jeans," he scoffed, "might as well come with a foreclosure notice. This isn't some pity picnic," he barked. "We're closing million-dollar deals, not handing out scraps to strays. You're tanking the property value just by being here. Do us a favor and vanish before we need to fumigate." The brokers roared. More bottle caps hit the grass near her shoes. It was less a party now, and more like a public execution of dignity. But Elena stood still, hands in her pockets, eyes unreadable. If she was feeling anything, she didn't let it show. She had become the unwitting star of their cruel theater, her humiliation the night's entertainment. By then, the clique of old college friends had taken it upon themselves to reassign Elena to the kids' table, snickering like children with a new toy. Sabrina, now sipping her second glass of rose, sauntered over with a tray of empty cups. Her voice oozed condescension beneath a fake sweetness. "Elena, darling, could you run and grab some juice boxes for the little ones?" she cooed. "And while you're at it, be a gem and clean up the grill scraps, won't you? I mean, your hands look like they're used to scrubbing things anyway." She smiled, gesturing to the pile of greasy plates with a lazy flick of her hand. "Let's face it, you're more suited to housekeeping than hanging with us. That t-shirt's practically your uniform, and those jeans? Girl, they're begging for bleach. This isn't a charity function for single moms clinging to college memories. Do yourself a favor, stick to the kiddie corner where you belong." Laughter erupted again. Some even tossed napkins at her feet as if she were staff. The music played on, but their voices drowned it out. Elena remained composed, now helping her daughter fix a plate at the buffet when another wave hit, this time from a group of tech bros wearing matching smartwatches and smug expressions. Their collective laugh silenced everyone nearby. One particularly lanky guy with a man bun and a startup hoodie swaggered up. He yanked a napkin out of Elena's hand and spoke loud enough for the whole yard to hear. Well, look who's here playing dress-up with the big kids," he said with a grin. "That t-shirt? It's not just sad, it's a whole cry for help. And those jeans? They're disrespecting the Westfield dress code. This is a high society hangout, not a soup kitchen for single moms. You're bringing the vibe down faster than crypto in a crash. Why don't you pack up your sad little plate and crawl back to that trailer park you call home?" The tech crowd howled. Someone tossed an olive pick at her shoe. Elena handed her daughter the plate calmly, her face a silent fortress. But it didn't matter. The buffet had turned into another stage for her public humiliation. When Elena quietly declined Sabrina's earlier request to serve drinks, Sabrina turned up the heat. As Elena passed, Sabrina accidentally tipped a full cup of soda straight down her jeans. The liquid soaked through instantly, the chill cutting through what pride she had left. "Oh no, my bad," Sabrina said with a smile too wide, her voice dripping with mock innocence. Although, to be fair, those pants were begging for an upgrade. "Did you fish them out of a donation bin? This is Westfield, sweetie. We dress for promotions, not pity. Honestly, you're lucky we even let you through the gate with that little tag-along of yours. You look like one missed paycheck from a park bench." The crowd exploded with laughter. Phones came out, capturing the wet stain for their private group chats. The air swirled with humiliation. And it didn't stop. One of Elena's former sorority sisters, now a high-end real estate agent with a luxury purse swinging from her shoulder, spotted her by the kids' table and couldn't resist the pile-on. "Oh, Elena, your husband," she began, her voice syrupy with sarcasm. "Still scrubbing dishes in that adorable little rental of yours, huh?" The crowd leaned in. "Seriously, the single mom act is getting old. That t-shirt looks like it survived a natural disaster. And those jeans? Total eyesore. This barbecue is for success stories, not sob stories. You're giving off clearance aisle energy." She gave Elena a once-over and added with a smug twist, "And that bun? It's practically screaming, I surrender. Why don't you go back to your budget life and let us real adults enjoy the day?" Another burst of laughter. Cocktail picks landed at Elena's feet like tiny daggers. Later, while a group photo was being staged by the fire pit, the lifestyle bloggers and their designer shades caught sight of Elena lingering nearby. One curly-haired woman with a selfie stick couldn't resist turning it into a moment of mockery. "Hold up," she called out. "Somebody move. We've got a photobombing party crasher over here." She pointed straight at Elena, laughing, while the others snickered behind mirrored lenses. "That T-shirt is so lifeless. It could double as a funeral flag," someone snickered. "And those jeans? They're a fashion felony in Westfield. This party's curated for perfect moments," another added. "Not for some single mom sob story dragging down our highlight reel. You should be grateful we even let you near our backdrop," one of them spat. "Now do us all a favor and vanish before you ruin another photo." The crowd erupted again, napkins fluttering through the air like confetti. Elena didn't flinch. She stepped back quietly, her face unreadable. Her silence was her armor, but no one noticed. The photo session had turned into yet another stage for her humiliation, the crowd's anger feeding off the public spectacle of pushing her out. At its core, this barbecue was a performance of suburban superiority. For Elena, it was a battleground where each moment was another blow. Near the grill, a hedge fund manager in cufflinks raised his drink and took center stage. To Elena, he announced, "The ghost of our college days, haunting this barbecue with her dollar store aesthetic." Laughter followed. "That shirt's so pitiful it's practically begging to be donated, and those jeans? Might as well be evidence in a crime against fashion," he mocked. "This is Westfield. We build legacies here, not food lines." Let's hear it for Elena, thinking she could keep up with us. Cheers burst around the yard. Someone tossed a bottle cap that skittered across the patio at her feet. Elena quietly led her daughter away from the crowd, trying to find a sliver of peace near the dessert table. But even there, escape was impossible. A pack of corporate lawyers, sharp and tailored suits, spotted her and closed in. Their laughter was sharp and calculated, every word a dart. A gray-haired man with a gold pin tucked into his jacket stepped forward. Well, hiding now, are we?" he called out. "The broke mom trying to pass herself off as one of us. Cute." He flicked a cupcake wrapper near her shoes. "That T-shirt looks like it's on welfare, and those jeans? They're offending our landscaping. This is Westfield, where we plan the future, not hand out leftovers. You and your kid are dragging down our whole evening. Do yourself a favor and crawl back to that sad little rental before we escort you out." The lawyers toasted themselves with spilled drinks and roaring laughter, another wave crashing over her. Elena didn't blink. She gripped her daughter's hand tighter, her expression unchanged. The dessert table had become another arena for her quiet endurance, but the onlookers only grew more vicious. Their performance was peaking, and they needed a finale. And they got one. A group of Travis's friends, high on cheap beer and cruel confidence, staged a final blow. As Elena walked past the kiddie pool, they accidentally collided with her. Travis led the charge, his voice booming with mock concern. "Whoops. Looks like single mom took a wrong turn into the splash zone," he bellowed. He tipped his beer over her as she stumbled, soaking her shirt just before she hit the water. Laughter exploded as she landed in the shallow pool, her jeans dripping. "Guess those pants needed a wash anyway," Travis sneered. "This isn't a halfway house for party crashers. Honestly, you're lucky we don't charge pool admission. Go back to your sad little life before you embarrass your daughter even more," someone shouted. Phones came out. Photos were snapped. The crowd howled. Elena sat in the shallow water, her soaked clothes clinging, her daughter watching in stunned silence. Then it happened. The laughter stopped. A low rumble filled the air as a fleet of black SUVs pulled up to the edge of the yard. Engines idled like a warning. Doors flew open. Marcus Whitaker, United States Supreme Commander of Defense, stepped out. He was a wall of composure in his crisp uniform, flanked by agents in black suits. He moved with the weight of command, his expression like steel. And when he spoke, the words sliced through the air like a blade. "Elena," he said, his voice low and clear, "I just concluded a global summit in Geneva. The moment I heard what happened here, I made this my top priority." The lawn froze. Marcus's gaze swept across the stunned crowd before locking onto Sabrina, whose face had drained of all color. Her wine glass trembled in her grip. Travis shrank behind her, suddenly aware of his beer-soaked shirt and the eyes of security agents scanning the scene. The sorority sister's designer purse slipped from her shoulder, forgotten. No brand label could shield her now. Marcus strode forward without hesitation, knelt, and helped Elena from the water. His touch was gentle. His expression, anything but. "This," he said with quiet power, "is Mrs. Whitaker." He straightened, his voice rising like a gavel in a courtroom. "Anyone here who insulted her will apologize immediately." or prepare to face legal consequences for publicly defaming the spouse of a national defense officer. The backyard barbecue that had once buzzed with cruelty now stood silent, the only sound the soft drip of water from Elena's soaked jeans and the distant hum of idling engines. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a shockwave, their whispers building into a stunned murmur as the truth about Elena hit with the force of a missile. As Marcus lifted his wife from the kiddie pool, his polished uniform caught the glow of the string lights. He turned to face them all, his voice cold and sharp, a command that cut through the night like a blade. "You mocked my wife," he said, his words ringing out. "You insulted her in front of our daughter. And you thought your lawn chairs and borrowed confidence made you untouchable." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His authority was absolute. With a simple gesture, Marcus signaled his team. Bodyguards fanned out and began handing legal documents to those who had tormented Elena. Summons for defamation. Cease and desist notices. Financial audits. "You will issue public apologies," Marcus said, calm and deadly, "or by sunrise, my legal division will begin seizing your assets." His words landed like lightning. Sabrina's legs buckled, her wine glass shaking violently in her hand. Travis, once full of swagger, now clung to an audit notice like a lifeline, his face pale. The yard that had been brimming with smug laughter only minutes ago now stood frozen, silent. One by one, the offenders dropped to their knees, their apologies choked out through tears. Their shame, once reserved for Elena, now turned inward, laid bare for all to see. Marcus's tablet glowed in his hand as he initiated property liens. The press, who had been quietly watching from the sidelines, now scribbled notes furiously, cameras flashing as they reframed Elena not as a victim, but as a queen. Her soaked jeans and t-shirt, once the subject of ridicule, had become a symbol of unshakable resilience. Elena stood beside her husband, saying nothing. She didn't have to. Her silence was the loudest statement on the lawn. Then Marcus spoke again, his voice unshakable. "As of this morning," he announced, "I am the legal owner of this entire neighborhood." He turned his gaze on Travis, who looked like he might collapse under the weight of it. "From now on," Marcus continued, "those who once mocked her as a broke single mom will live under the banner of the Whitaker family." The blood drained from the guests' faces. Their grins faded. Their smirks dissolved into horror. More bodyguards moved through the crowd, distributing additional documents, charges of harassment, notices of federal audits, and subpoenas. Marcus turned to the real estate broker who had mocked Elena's husband earlier. His gaze didn't blink. "You thought that purse gave you power," he said quietly, "that your label gave you permission to slander my wife?" He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He simply waited. "Apologize," he said, "or your firm will be under federal investigation before sunrise." The broker crumpled to her knees. Her designer purse hit the grass without ceremony. She trembled as she begged Elena for forgiveness, her humiliation total. Marcus's team handed her a cease and desist packed with evidence, tax violations, documented slander, and a suspension of licensure. The media captured every second. "I am the supreme commander of defense," Marcus said, his voice deep and thunderous. "And Elena is my partner in every battle." The crowd, once proud, once cruel, could no longer meet Elena's eyes. Their confidence, once towering, was now rubble beneath Marcus's boots. Another cheer rose, not from the partygoers, but from those watching justice take shape. The public reckoning had become a performance, and Elena was no longer its target. She was its heroine. Sabrina made a last-ditch attempt to save face. She stepped forward, forcing a nervous chuckle. "Elena," she said weakly, "come on. Let's not blow this out of proportion. It was just some harmless teasing college nostalgia, that's all." Elena didn't move. Her voice, barely a whisper, sliced through the yard like glass. "You poured soda on me in front of my child, Sabrina. You mocked my family, my life. You thought nothing could touch you." She paused. The silence was total. 9 seconds, Elena said coldly. "That's how long it took to end your world." Sabrina stood frozen, her sundress clinging to her skin like a shroud. Her queen bee aura shattered in full view of the clique she once ruled. Marcus stepped toward the hedge fund manager who had toasted Elena's sad aesthetic. His tone was cool and direct. "You thought your portfolio made you immune," he said, walking slowly. "Kneel and apologize to my wife. Or tonight, your offshore accounts vanish." The manager obeyed immediately. His expensive cufflinks dulled under the floodlights, his voice cracking as he offered a trembling apology. Marcus's tablet flashed again as his team initiated a financial freeze. The press captured every click, every command, every crumbling ego. "I am Marcus Whitaker," he said, his voice like a war drum. And my wife's dignity is non-negotiable. The crowd, once lifted by smug superiority, now stood in a quiet graveyard of shame. The sorority sister who once mocked Elena's life tried to sneak away, but Elena's voice stopped her like a shot. "You thought humiliating my husband made you clever," she said, stepping forward. Her tone wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. "Kneel. Apologize. Or every door in Westfield shuts in your face." The woman dropped instantly, her purse forgotten in the grass. Her voice wavered as she stammered her regret. Marcus's team quietly added her to a community blacklist. She would find no sympathy, no invitation, no open gate in Westfield ever again. And then, Marcus turned to the fire pit. The flickering flames lit his uniform as he stood tall, his presence washing over the remaining guests like a storm. And with calm authority, he addressed the rest of the backyard. "You laughed at my wife, mocked her family, and thought your suburban clout could protect you," Marcus said, his gaze sweeping the lawn like a gavel striking down. Every word hit with the weight of a final sentence. At his signal, his team activated a towering digital screen, glowing under the backyard lights. It displayed the updated ownership records for every home in the neighborhood, each deed now stamped with one name: Whitaker. "This neighborhood is ours now," Marcus declared. "And your leases are under my review." A gasp swept the crowd. Faces turned pale as Sabrina and Travis's names appeared on a public blacklist. Their social exile wasn't whispered, it was broadcast. The press captured the moment in high definition, and by nightfall, Marcus's authority was trending. The crowd, once so confident in their cruelty, now cheered not for the elites, but for Elena. The neighbors who had ridiculed her were speechless. Their status gone. Their front yards, once symbols of superiority, were now monuments to the Whitaker legacy. The fallout was instant. Elena and Marcus walked away from the backyard without looking back. Her drenched clothes, once the target of humiliation, now marked her as a symbol of resilience, untouchable and unshaken. Behind them, the same crowd who had called her the broke single mom stood in silence, watching the woman they couldn't break walk away with the man who commanded nations. By morning, Westfield was on fire with headlines. The blacklist trended on every platform. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Whitaker Crush, hashtag Silent Queen, hashtag Empire in Jeans. The neighborhood's reputation imploded, its elite mocked across towns and timelines from Illinois to Connecticut. Outside that infamous backyard, a growing crowd of stunned residents and media gathered. They had come not out of curiosity, but reverence. "You're the Silent Queen," one whispered, bowing slightly. But Marcus lifted his hand. "My wife doesn't need bows," he said. "She needs a world that respects her strength, and I'll build it for her, brick by brick." Without a word, he handed a summons to one of the guests who had thrown napkins at Elena. The man trembled as he read the charges. Shame finally caught up to cruelty. Reporters broadcast every second as Elena's image spread, not just a wife, not just a survivor, but a titan. And Marcus? The unshakable wall behind her. From the porch, Sabrina and Travis could only watch as their world collapsed. Their arrogance, their status, their reign, it all unraveled under Marcus's command. Westfield's social order had been rewritten. The same neighbors who had cheered Elena's humiliation now stood stripped of their pride. Sabrina's circle dissolved. Her bank accounts frozen. Her sundress, the one she'd used to flaunt power, now a symbol of her failure. Travis's business was under investigation. The Alpha had fallen. His name reduced to a warning. The sorority sister who'd jeered at Elena now found her inbox empty. No more invites. No more clout. Her name lost in a wave of accountability. And Elena? Her name echoed in every Westfield home. Her story, a new kind of legend. Her simple t-shirt and jeans became a myth, symbols of unspoken strength. She never returned to that barbecue. She didn't have to. She'd made her point, and the world had heard it loud and clear. Journalists dug into her past, wife of Marcus Whitaker, Supreme Commander. A woman who had quietly stood beside one of the world's most powerful men. The calm before the storm. Now, they called her the Silent Queen. Other neighborhoods sent her invitations, begging for partnerships. She declined them all. Her silence, sharp and dignified, said more than any no could. The same people who mocked her now lived in the wreckage of their own arrogance. Their reputations tarnished. Their wealth meaningless against the reach of the Whitaker name. Westfield's culture of elitism crumbled. New residents demanded humility. They respected Elena, admired Marcus, and feared what could happen if they forgot. The once beloved string lights that used to frame exclusive backyard events now hung as reminders of failure. Every party, every gathering, the shadow of that night lingered. A reminder of who truly owned Westfield. Sabrina and Travis were forced to stand before the community and publicly apologize. Their voices shook. Their crimes laid bare for the cameras. Footage of their confessions went viral. Their shame became the final chapter in the fall of Westfield's false royalty. The blacklisted neighbors became social ghosts. No invites. No influence. Their status dissolved into silence. Meanwhile, the Whitaker empire only expanded. Their story became a symbol for every person who had ever been laughed out of a backyard barbecue. A rally cry for the underestimated. A warning for the arrogant. Weeks later, Elena reappeared at a charity event beside Marcus. She wore another plain t-shirt. No labels. No flash. Just quiet, effortless command. The room paused when she entered, not because of her outfit, but because they knew this woman didn't need their lights, their drinks, or their approval. She came to test them, and they failed. She didn't scream. She never had to. She let them choke on their own cruelty until Marcus arrived and ended their games with a single glance. From that day on, no one in Westfield forgot the woman they mocked, or the empire that quietly conquered their front lawns. If stories like this move you, where the woman they spit on becomes the one they kneel to, like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales of silent queens ruling louder than any crown.